Call the meeting of the Fire and Police Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Bill Jenks.
Here.
Fred Mogle.
Here.
Ron Stanko.
Here.
Fred Levering.
Here.
And Steve Bruno will be here, but he's running a little late.
Yes. Before we go any further, just a correction on the agenda. Item number 6A, where it says Wilson School District. Would you please change that to the Wyomissing Area School District? A little typo there. Okay. Are there any public comments?
Yeah, I gotta say 2 words. Adrian
Name and
Jadik,
address.
Wyomissing, I just said. I saw in the documents the letter from the DOT, and I sincerely wonder why we have to wait for the DOT to tell us to do some common sense actions after someone gets killed. I've heard the chief say, oh, we had only 2 deaths in 25 years or whatever. I don't think that's really the best approach. We have temporary parking that we can put out, no parking, I mean temporary no parking that we can put out at least until we scratch our heads and figure a more permanent solution. I think it's just respectful to the death and to the family that we show some action and some common sense until again all the chess pieces are together and we may decide to either put a crosswalk, whatever it is, which it's understandable, takes time. But in the meantime, we can do some minimal action. And it beats me why we cannot do this. It's just simple. It's a mayor's proclamation, or whatever it is called, that we can put those temporary no parking, and we have them all over the place. So it's not something new. Same ideas about the 6 years of our 18-wheeler. Frankly, I haven't been in the area to know. I don't know, is it still there? That's another situation. I don't know. The man has pulled wires to the thing. It's still, and there might be some legal issues that our borough solicitor obviously avoids assuming responsibility for this. But again, no temporary action, nothing. We just let it sit there and wait for other ones, to come and do the same. It beats me why we have to move so slowly. It doesn't cost any money. It costs the people who live there. It costs a lot of people, but it seems we're more concerned about, what can I say, about our sandwiches. So, and again, I'm sorry, Bill. I just got the right to know request about these sandwiches. $5,000 budgeted per year for sandwiches. $5,000. I think that is extremely hypocritical. Okay, we are worried about that, about locking the door. God forbid that somebody is poisoning your sandwich. Right?
No, that was to keep you from taking them like you were.
I never took a sandwich from you, sir. I once took a water bottle because I was thirsty, and I think it's decent for your visitor to offer them water if they wish to have it. I never took one sandwich from you from taxpayers' money. I don't need that. Unlike you, we're so poor that you need taxpayers paid sandwiches. So that's about it. I wish the chief would take some faster actions, but I guess that remains my wish. Thank you.
And just a comment on both those, just because Mr. Jadig is not aware,
because you don't
In
give the
tune with
information.
what's going on, just allow me to say that both the items that he's discussed or alluded to are being discussed
Mhm.
behind the scenes,
Mhm.
and all options are being explored to be presented when the appropriate time is there. So,
I don't
just
think you're
bring
paying
those up.
attention to
So,
what I said.
let's move on to Western Berks ambulance. Tony.
Hi, everyone. So I apologize, you don't have only one person has seen the most updated format, but there's a nice new format here for you that you'll have next month. We had a total of 148 calls for service in February, bringing our total to 406. I've kind of laid out the response times. Instead of having just numbers for you, I have some bar graphs in there for you to make it a little easier to read, with some clarification of what the numbers are and what they are there. Again, dispatch were responding, we're out in 1 minute 1 minute 4 seconds. Our average responding dispatch scene to there is 9 minutes and 59 seconds. And it actually came down once we changed it, and our average scene time went up a little bit after I did Janice report for it to get Wyomissing Hillsborough off to 13 minutes and 56 seconds. You see the breakdown of the monthly service call area where we're at, with Spring Township leading the way first with the 460 calls, followed by Wyomissing, and then West Reading, so on and so forth. Again, most of the patients go to Reading Hospital, and again, most of them are advanced life support calls, and then I have the breakdown for Country Meadows, Building 1, Building 2. And as you can see, while we're there only about 20 times, I'm pretty sure we're at other nursing homes a lot more, including Patient First. I think we're probably at Patient First probably 60 times a month. So rather interesting. Flu A is still going around, so please make sure you're protecting yourself as much as possible. It has gone up, and that's about all I have.
Any questions for Tony?
Are you having any Narcan?
No, it's actually, last year was huge. This year, we haven't had any so far. Nothing in the borough that we've had to give. And last year we had a ton. So the first 2 months have been much.
So what's the effect of this windfall of money that was in the newspaper that everybody was getting?
You mean
15,000
by $15,000?
Well, I don't know, that's what I'm
Yeah.
That's what
So that's what we got, 15,000.
How does that affect you with regard to everybody else that plays in user field?
It covers about half a day of time, not even. The problem being with the state funding on the way it is, and you know, we service 21 municipalities, but we get one $15,000 thing, where every fire department who serves each individual municipality gets one, up to possibly, and there were some that got much larger, anywhere between, I think it was 9 was the lowest this year, and I think 52 was the most, I believe I saw.
Western Berks.
Fire works differently than EMS. EMS gets a flat 15,000 no matter what. Fire, they have to put in different things of how many people they have certified and everything else. West Reading gets it, Western Berks gets multiple monies because they merged multiple departments. The same with Spring. I think that
You can only do it up to 5 years as a merged department. After 5 years, it goes back to the maximum is 20,000.
Did they change that?
That's the way it's always been.
The last time I saw it was 20 years. You got it for 20 years.
Last I heard was 5.
That's good. So
So is any of that money coming to you? Or you just tell
we
them
get
everybody
15,000.
else? That's it?
That's it. One municipality, you
It
get
doesn't matter
15,000.
what Everybody else gets. I get it.
It'd be nice that if I get 15,000 for every municipality we serve. That'd be great.
5 would be helpful too.
I'd take 5 from every municipality, would be even better. But no, we only get one. We're trying to change that, how that's done.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move on to West Side Emergency Management.
Next. Okay, For your information here, we had the training session for elected officials in January out there at the county. I did not, no one from here was there in the morning. I went in the morning, so I don't know if anyone went in the evening or not from here. They usually send out a attendance sheet afterwards, on which I haven't gotten yet, so I don't know if anyone from our council went or any other elected official. I know others have in the past, so you know, it's one of those things like I go every year just to kind of see if there's anything new, but other than that, once you go once, it's kind of like, you know, right, exactly. So every once in a while would be good, but I'd be happy if people went out just to kind of catch up on what's going on here. I still have planning in mind and dates for having elected officials stop up to our emergency operations center and see what goes on there, and have probably look at a short presentation of some kind from one of our guys that helps out, and also again to be announced or be determined a date for fire, police, and ambulance to get together again too. We did have a meeting with our planning session down at the hospital for this mass casualty incident drill that they're going to hold in April down at actually it'll be in Kumru Township, but the hospital staff is heavily involved, and we got included in it because of some of the people that we had that help us, along with some other first responders and a lot of hospital staff that really are big on this mass casualty thing right now. Some of it tied in with the Palmer thing. Other things, of course, any kind of mass casualty incident is a big deal and can cause all kinds of issues and needs resources galore, and they want to practice with what they're going to have a drill of sorts down here at the old Titus plant down there in Kumru.
Is PD involved in that too, or?
You know what, PD was not at the meeting down there at the hospital. The meeting we had for reviewing this, and I was shocked. I don't know, the hospital people are kind of in charge of it, so I don't know if they were invited and just didn't come or what. I don't mean that you, no, I didn't mean you guys. No, I didn't mean you guys, but there wasn't anyone there even from Kumru, so, yeah, no, it wouldn't have.
In view of the unfortunate incident in New York, wouldn't surprise me if something comes about.
I know, there was something that popped up right away there. This stuff is, wow, I don't know what to tell you, other than the fact that everybody that sits here that's a first responder knows it can happen instantaneously anywhere, so it's hard to deal with, it's hard to practice for, it's hard to get everybody together for that kind of stuff.
The only thing I can say about it, thinking about it, is a couple of years ago, there was a event that was held down at the hospital that we were all involved in, and
Right.
I was the actual active shooter for that one. And that was a year in the making that I was involved in the planning with that. And one of the things that came out of it was these off-site facilities, so they maybe just expanding out to that now. And we're doing Kumru, but I can't, they didn't ask us to be involved.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what went on there as far as like who got invited and who didn't. I don't know. Maybe they got, somebody couldn't come that night after they said they were coming. I don't know. Anyway, it's in the works, and they are working on it. The hospital's heavily involved.
I think it'll be interesting to see, tying off that after the events of this weekend, what hospitals do in response to that incident.
Yeah.
Because while we take you into the emergency room, if you go into the emergency room as a visitor or as just for a patient, you get wanded, you go through a medical detector, you go through an x-ray machine, but nowhere else in Tower Health do you go through that in the hospital. So you could walk in to see a patient and you could have done this exact same thing, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens after that incident on Saturday.
I mean, like the outpatient places,
Into the hospital.
so
Yeah,
just
I
into
see
the
you.
hospital.
I can walk into our building and go,
Oh,
Tom Boucher's in the hospital, ICU, I can say, hey, I'm here to see Tom Boucher.
I see what you're.
Okay, here's my ID, and I go through no metal detector, no
No.
security screening, whatever, just to walk into a hospital. It's a little scary now.
Okay, I'll make a short comment here, or his report. I attached it to the information there. There was back in the end of January, there was a fish kill in the creek down here that I happened to be notified, and went down and talked to the DEP guy. I think the police made the initial call, or made it to the initial call, and I don't know what you guys all got for information for it.
We got follow-up from DEP basically saying the results or the cause is inconclusive.
Yeah, okay, and I attached what he gave me too from that on my sheet there, and I don't know, maybe that might be the stuff that you got. He had some pictures and things. It's suspected that it dealt with, or had to do with Shillington's massive water leaks that they had in one weekend, and that's what he's suspecting, but there's nothing to really prove it, because it went too many days before people started saying, hey, there's some dead fish down here. And they had already started to deteriorate, or whatever happens to them there in the water. And he said he could not, make any conclusion from that, other than the fact that they were dead. But that's what the suspicion is, especially when he found out what the geographic area was along the creek. It seemed to match up with that. The other thing I'll just mention quickly was the salt crisis. I guess that was like last week, a week and a half ago, where everybody had their knickers on a bunch about running out of salt. Luckily, we had plenty and shared with at least Kenhurst, right? Everyone else in our region, for emergency management anyway, had enough. West Reading was waiting for a supply and hadn't gotten it by the time this was going on. I don't know if they finally got it or not, but we managed to get through here with somehow some giant barge coming up the river got stuck or something, I don't know, and couldn't unload the salt. So right now it appears that that's all okay, but you would not believe, everybody was like crazy with this. So it resolved itself.
How's the water leak in your water main breaks in Shillington? Adverse.
We had, and
They were massive, they were all over.
several years, well, a couple years ago, when that line broke there on Cambridge Avenue, there was a huge release of water that killed a lot of fish too. Unfortunately, the individual perished too. That was the worst part of it. But the borough has, when the guys are out doing hydrants, they have
Filter
things that
bags.
they put around the
They're
drains
filter bags that go on that.
that neutralize that. When we know that it's gonna happen, we have stuff to neutralize it. So that part's good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. That's all I have. So, any other questions?
Any questions for Tom? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to fire department.
Yeah,
Ethan.
no, I'm sorry, but not to belabor it, but Tony said about the incident in York, that somebody could just walk into another area of the hospital and so on, and not be wanted and so on. But where do you draw the line with things like that? You say the same thing at the mall. I mean, somebody could walk into the mall and go into
Or a movie theater.
a movie theater or whatever. I mean, I understand, and it's not a lack of concern, it's just a matter of, how practical it
That's
is.
why I said it'll be interesting to see what will happen with this.
It comes with the freedoms that we all enjoy in this country. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's the downside.
Okay. All right, thanks again, Tom. Moving on to the fire department, Ethan.
Good afternoon, everybody. For the month of February, Had 138 responses to date, 82 in the borough, 56 were mutual aid calls, a total of 36 QRS responses with 9 patient contacts. Year to date, we're up to 299 incident responses. 171 of those were in the borough. Our 90th percentile turnout time is 2 minutes and 11 seconds. The average travel time to get from the station to an incident scene is 3 minutes and 51 seconds, and we've had an average of 4.5 personnel responding per incident. Year to date for training, there's been 194.75 hours of training documented, 45 in the month of February. And overlapping calls seem to continue to be on the rise. There was a day this past week where we had 4 of them going on at the same time that we were dispatched. Keeps increasing with the increased demand for calling out the fire department. Are there any questions on the monthly report?
I do, Chief. On
Yes.
the mutual aid given,
Yes.
Spring is far and away more than anyone else. In West Reading and the other side, this is a fraction of that.
Yes.
Explain to me how with the separation of Wyomissing and Spring Township, where do we stand now? Do we still respond to all their calls, or what is the reason that number is as big as it is?
So there's still a very strong working relationship between us and Spring Township,
Right.
both directions. Them coming here and us going over there to assist them. Part of that is because of relying on the staff apparatus. We know how many people we are getting from them. That's a level of safety that my guys can count on. And we know we're getting 3 or 4 people from Spring Township right away in the first apparatus. As far as where we're going in other municipalities, they have their own jurisdiction and authority to design their run cards to request the resources that they want. And we just aren't in there high enough. So like going to West Reading, unless it's a major incident, we're not typically going for a normal fire alarm activation unless it's a high hazard type of occupation.
I think the short answer, Mayor, is, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no change made to the run cards after the IGA was terminated. So it looks exactly the same in terms of response as it was last year at this time.
Is that a good thing?
Yes.
We are currently going through the process to evaluate them, and there have been more departments in our local area that have put on daytime or career staffing full-time. We're looking at bringing more of those resources to the table for our working incidents to increase the safety.
The more interesting part is why West Reading, they only have 2.
Just waiting.
Reading does occasionally, we do occasionally. Again, it's going to be hit or miss on what type of incident is dispatched. Your larger occupancies like the hospital, the large apartment complexes, we go initially, but your normal private residences were not.
With the Spring Township thing, Chief, I mean, back years ago when we formulated the shared arrangement, it was sort of a equipment-wise, they got the pumpers, we got the aerial kind of thing. Is that still pretty much the case? And
To answer your question, yes, it is still the case. We look at what resources we can get from the neighboring municipalities to come and help us, and they do the same thing. Look at what we can offer to help them. There are 2 NFPA standards, 1710 and 1720, that specify what types of resources we should request, as well as there is information in the ISO fire protection rating schedule for what you should be calling it. We take all of that into account to make sure that we are bringing in the adequate resources and staffing to support the incident and to help it or help work through it in a safe and effective manner.
So, yeah, I have no objection to it. I mean, it seems to be working well, and that's the bottom line. But if we have a, you know, informal combination or whatever, does that lead to the potential that we should be able to access other grants or whatever because of operating in a, I mean, Harrisburg has always been all about combination things.
There are opportunities to go in and do regional grants through the federal grants that are available. Most of those are looking at larger purchases like air packs, cascade systems, those types of things. But as far as an agreement, there's a countywide mutual aid agreement that we all subscribe to be able to use resources and pull resources from our neighboring jurisdictions.
It just seems like there's an opportunity there of some kind. Harrisburg, as I said, I've always been very excited about regional kind of approaches to things. And this is one.
It is, but not in terms of the way grant applications look at. We are our own standalone fire department, not governed by an IGA. So when we're applying for things, we're applying as the Wyomissing Fire Department.
And I think with Tom Cook, our new fire commissioner, he's a lot more tuned to what's going on and isn't as much just a verbal. He believes in action. So I think as time goes on, the Commonwealth is going to see a vast improvement in its fire service because he's at the helm.
Okay.
The one side thing I will say, because I had to ask the chief this, and he said he is working with West Reading to improve responses and relationships. But I was standing in front of the station the other day talking to the chief, and Spring Township's engine went by the station, lights and siren, and 600 block of Penn Avenue for a report of a possible gas leak. And Wyomissing was not even called. So I just kind of scratched my head, and the chief said, "Don't worry, I'm having talks with them, trying to improve relations." So, improve relations. You would think.
If there's no other questions, I appreciate the questions that you have asked. I'll move on to the executive summary for the year-end report.
You're good, go ahead.
So I'll just summarize a couple of the key points that came out on the executive summary. Last year for 2024, there were 1,816 calls for service handled by the Wyomissing Fire Department. It's a slight decrease from 2023. Count that towards our ladder truck being out of service for about a month and a half for some extended repairs that stopped or prevented us from being dispatched on some calls. 1,196 of those incidents were in the borough, 620 were mutual aid responses. Overall, there were 441 QRS responses with 193 patient contacts and 0 Narcan deliveries. The department did 2,044.5 hours worth of training. There were 819 fire inspection and code enforcement activities that were documented in 2024. The biggest things are there at the bottom. We transitioned from a shared record management system into one of our own and have worked diligently to design it to get accurate information out of it, as well as have accurate information put into it. We increased our career staffing to 4 per shift. We brought on 3 new volunteer firefighters in 2024, and look to continue to welcome more. And in the tail end of, or the late third quarter, early fourth quarter, we made the purchase of the Pierce Enforcer pumper to replace our 2009 that needed to go into the reserve status. Overall, putting together the year-end report was enlightening to see the accomplishments that we have made through 2024 and refreshing to see the direction that we are going. Look forward to any feedback or any questions on that.
Good report, thanks.
I think unsaid is how much running around. That's correct.
We have not seen an annual report from the fire department like this in quite some time. It's very welcomed and informative. Thanks for a lot of effort and time was put into this insurance.
I look forward to being able to have more information in there for the 2025 now that we'll officially have a full year with our new record management system. It'll be easier to get accurate information. The next item that I have is we received the Office of the State Fire Commissioner's Fire Company grant, total of $14,600.59. It'll be used to purchase additional sets of PPE for staff who only have one set currently. It's important that they have a secondary set, so if they're out on an incident and it becomes dirty, if they're at a fire, we want them to wash it, reduce that potential for cross-contamination and re-exposure to the carcinogens that they get exposed to at fires. So having a second set allows them to go right back into service and be able to respond to calls again. The next item is the Deputy Chief's vehicle. Respectively going to make a motion to table, approve, or deny purchasing that vehicle through New Holland Auto Group using the $53,000 LSA grant funds that were awarded, I believe it was 2023.
Awarded in 24.
24, sorry.
I'll make a motion that we approve that recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Question on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Our new full-time firefighter, Drew LeFavre, began his first shift working dayside starting on Monday, February 17th. He's going through 8 days of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Training with the staff, and then he'll be going out to his shift on March 1st. He's currently going to be assigned to C shift with Captain Yeager, Technician Lambert, and firefighter EMT O'Constant. I feel that's a really good location for Drew to go to, as he has past experience working with all three of them. Also received one new volunteer application and handed out another one to an interested member from a neighboring community that's looking to get into the fire service. We'll be bringing those up at the March fire company meeting. Continuing to work forward on more recruitment and retention activities to try and bring in more volunteers to help support our department. We put in place some internal processes and systems over the course of last year and into the beginning of this year. One of the gaps that we identified that was causing some fluctuation in being able to complete processes was when a staff member is working out of rank, there wasn't any true guide to be able to show them what the expectations were, what the daily duties were in that new position. So my captains have put together a daily functions guide, as well as the technicians. They did the same thing to try and close some of those gaps so that we have more consistency across the board in how we're operating. We're working on also developing a guide for operating with 4-person staffing, so that it takes a lot of the guesswork out of what people are going to do. They have initial functions depending on what seat they're sitting in to complete when they get on scene. Makes things move a little bit smoother and more effectively as well. And then I spoke earlier, we're working on an internal review of the run cards to update those, bringing in the best resources and staffing to meet some of the requirements with ISO and NFPA and best serve our borough here. We have our next.
Anticipate changes?
Some, I think so. Like I said, there's some other municipalities that are bringing on full-time staffing. Like Cumru Township just went to a 24-hour staffing schedule. being able to bring those types of resources in, help make sure that we're getting enough people on scene to handle the incidents in a timely manner. You're welcome. We have our next civil service meeting on March 5th. We're looking to finalize the deputy chief's process as well as discuss the entry-level hiring testing process. It looks like we'll be able to get into the fall CPAT candidate physical agility testing cycle. That'll start towards the end of August and run through September. So building the timeline backwards from that so that we can work through and have the dates already scheduled. So by the end of the third quarter, middle of the fourth quarter, we'll be in a position to have a certified list. And with the internal committees, one of those is the apparatus replacement committee. They've shifted their gears from the replacement process for the engine. Now that that's in service, they've shifted their gears over to look into what the aerial needs are for when we have to get ready to replace the ladder truck. We want to make sure that it's designed properly to meet the types of calls that we are responding to here in the borough. And we're still looking at those consistent build times of anywhere from 40 to 48 months. Regardless of the manufacturer, it's still about a 4-year process from the time you sign the papers till you would take delivery of the vehicle.
And what is your current anticipated need year-wise?
So the current ladder truck is a 2020, so it's been in service for almost 5 years. Ideally, it would be to look at replacing that when it gets to hit 10 years and then move it into a reserve status to serve both as an engine or as a ladder truck when either the new aerial or our current engine are out of service for repairs or annual service.
Thanks.
We have been working on the utility replacement project. We took delivery of that on last week, on Wednesday. Again, that was all funded through the Relief Association, which we're very thankful for their support and being able to do that. And then lastly, we're working on, with the fire inspection program, streamlining some of the processes. Been meeting with Glenn Kraft a couple of times here to bring them up to speed on how our record management system works for inputting fire inspections and doing the reports. We're looking at another couple of meetings here to get that fully in place so that when Glenn or somebody, an inspector from his office, does an inspection, they're not sending it over to me to put into the system, that they can do it on their end. And that's all I have. I'll answer any questions on anything that I brought up.
Are we trying to sort of pull down on the cost inspections and move up in your world, or is this always going to be a double team project?
So for right now, it's going to be a double team project. My focus I'm still focused on doing the fire inspections, but that takes up a lot of my time to work on other things that I need to be working on. So I'm trying to get Kraft and his fellow inspectors to take on a little bit more to relieve some of that weight.
So is there a cost benefit to having another one of you guys be the fire inspection person or crafting trees and sidewalks?
There is, but it's difficult with the amount of calls that the staff are responding to and their training requirements to have them going out and doing as many inspections as I've been working on. I do have the intent to bring back the company level inspections for smaller properties, but One of the other issues with sending out the on-duty staff to do them is if there's an incident and they leave, tends to tarnish some of the relationships you have with business owners. Because we're expecting them to be present and we have to take off.
And in some cases, stop operations if it's a medical office, a hair salon.
So I may not know enough to be dangerous, but if you're doing X number of inspections now, and you're at the top of the heap here, if you had somebody that wanted to be in the fire department but didn't want to drive around with a hook and ladder, you'd rather do inspections for you, would that not give you a person who is fully trained up in the fire world that likes doing inspections, that would allow that person to take over for what you're doing, which is above your pay grade at the moment, and that person would take over for Kraft, because I'm sure Kraft knows more about trees than he does about fire departments. So if we got a full-time person that does what you're doing, is that cost efficient at some point, or are they always trying to get to be on a hook and ladder that will be there forever?
No, I think there is a positive side to having somebody dedicated full-time to doing the inspections. I don't know if it will ever be a complete 100% cost coverage with that.
Because we're also, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but aren't we also using your inspection services in the buildup of development around here, so that those fire inspection things are done before the
We
project
are.
is built? So that becomes another aspect of this. It's not simply a matter of check to see if you're back.
For what it's worth, I review and approve the Kraft invoices. They have yet to charge us for a single fire inspection.
Who what?
They have yet to charge us for a single fire inspection. Kraft. And I've had that conversation with Glenn, and he views that as a service he effectively provides for the borough because of all of the other work that they do for us, and it's not a significant portion of his time.
So what does that, I mean, he's doing it for free.
Yeah.
I mean, who does anything for free?
Glenn actually does a lot for free.
Well, I guess I would say.
He's a good steward of, he appreciates the working relationship with the borough, and to him, it's something beneficial he can do for us on top of the other services they provide to us that we are charged for.
So, well then, let's flip it around. How much of this stuff can you just give to Kraft so you don't have to do it? Because you're the fire chief, give it to him because he likes to do it for free and then you want him to do it.
So we did split almost 50-50 what was due here in the first quarter for 2025, and it seems to be working out pretty well with the pace that we're going.
How do you see a deputy chief fitting in?
I see the deputy chief also picking up and doing some inspections as well, but the deputy is going to have more hands-on approach to the operational side.
So,
No matter how you slice it, it's a hell of a lot better than it used to be. So.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I do. So the Kraft people are certified, qualified for fire inspections?
They are.
Both Jeff Fine
Now,
and
what do
Glenn
they
Kraft.
wear when they go on the scene for that? Do they show that they're with the fire department?
They have identification. And we've appointed Glenn and Kraft by resolution as the fire marshal.
Is it the same people that are doing it for them?
Yes.
Yes.
And they have, what's their experience with this again?
They're certified through the state.
Are we just lucky, or is this eventually gonna blow up in our face that we have people doing stuff that they don't charge us for, and we're trying to figure out what they do, who supervises what they did, and who makes sure that if they're going out there for 2 hours, somebody's picking it up for free. If it's not us, somebody has to be paying these guys.
I think both from what the chief and his staff have found on the follow-up re-inspections, on top of a 10-year working relationship at this point with Kraft overall for different inspection services, neither the chief or I have any concerns that anything is being missed or done outside of code requirements.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, sir, appreciate it. On to the police department, John.
Good afternoon, everybody. First, I'm respectfully asking for a motion to table, approve, or deny an IGA with the Wyomissing Area School District for the enforcement of the school bus violations. This IGA has been reviewed by our solicitor. It is now word for word. There were some revisions going back and forth, but it is now word for word the same as the IGA signed with the Wilson School District for the same reasons. So I know that Wyomissing is looking to get the cameras installed as well and then be operational for next school year beginning. So this year, but not until school starts again in the fall. So I'm asking that, again, that this be approved so that we can work with the Wyomissing as we are Wilson.
I'll make that.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Question on the motion?
I just want to ask Chief, to what extent, how much has Wilson used this program with the
Well, I have a sergeant assigned to this, and he works on it every Thursday and Sunday. What happens, he gets notifications via email to go in and look at violations that have occurred in the borough. And we're taking numbers so that we can see where these are occurring, because we've started now doing details. We're seeing a problem on Park Road in the area of Wynwood and in the 400 block as well. So we're starting to see that pattern, and our day shift officers are starting to do traffic checks in there. We take numbers. I don't know if you look at it or not, but I've developed a code for school bus violations so that we can see that.
So that is happening frequently.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at the amount.
And some of the, when you see the incidents, there are some, what you don't see on the web is when we have an incident, there may be 3-4 cars assigned to that incident as well. So it's not just one, sometimes it's one car, but sometimes it's several cars that are going past these buses. It seems like Park Road like I said, at Wynwood seems to be a major issue, because it seems like a lot of the cars are making a right off a spring and passing the bus as it stopped there for the kids that get on and off the bus there.
So has your assigned officer needed to testify?
No, the way, not so far. The way this will happen is if the owner of the vehicle is actually sent a copy of the video as well, so that they can see the violation occur. And if they choose to fight it, it goes before a master and it's on video. If they are found guilty at that point, they can, at that point, then appeal, and that goes to the MDJ. And it would be at that point we would get involved and testify. So if it goes as it has for the rest of the state, that will happen very infrequently. So I think everybody's seeing the video and knowing that this is a civil penalty versus, so that they don't have the things that go against them for points, doesn't go against their insurance, doesn't go on their driver's record as a violation. So most people see that as a win.
Do the school districts publicize this, or
They did and we did. When it went out, we put it on our social media as well. I'm sure we'll do the same once Wyomissing gets up and running.
do you have problem areas in the Wyomissing Area School District?
Well, we don't know that yet. That would be the old-fashioned way, where the bus would, they would call in and have to give a written report about it. I haven't seen one of those come across our desk at all. Well, I don't know what it's going to show.
Any other questions?
I mean, this points out that the increased use of technology, this and the stuff we have in our police cars, picking up the expired registration and all kinds of other stuff. And this all was really initiated, or we knew about it, but we were able to pay for it because of the generosity of Phil Wolf. And I think we ought to, at some point, we ought to contact his family and just say, you know, he started something really important here.
we sent him, God bless him, he's not with us anymore, but, I'll talk to you about that.
John, what's the rule of school buses on the boulevard with the barrier between?
So-
I always stop, so
Right.
here's my point to the question, is I just stop, because those kids are all over the place. But I see cars not stopping in their argument, because I've seen people I know saying you don't have to because there's an island in between.
Yeah, you don't have to. There's a
That's what I
barrier,
thought.
the island counts. Now, let's say you're at Lake, I know, cause I know one stops, because I stopped somebody the one day that came off the lake. A bus stops right there at the intersection, then you have to come to a stop. But if it's in the middle of the block where the island is there, that's a barrier, so you don't have to stop.
I still stop. Then people honk at you.
And that's why we review, when we get the video, I have the sergeant reviewing it, because they have the ability to say, no, it's not a violation, and clear that out, so that the person doesn't get anything.
Can we start putting them in the ambulances and fire trucks?
You should.
I'm pretty sure that could be a huge revenue source for us.
Talk to the legislature.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so approved.
So next I have a discussion of the 1,000 block of Penn Avenue regarding a topic that we discussed last time because of the pedestrian accident. Since then, we have received a document from the Department of Transportation that was originally sent to Senator Schwank, and it was forwarded then to us. And what this is basically, if you haven't read it, is they're advising that we could put a crosswalk and the signs on Penn Avenue, even though it's a state road, we can do it without permission.
We do that anywhere.
What's that?
We do that anywhere.
They're saying that we can put it here on state road without receiving any permission from the state PennDOT to do it. So last time I talked about a couple different things on some possibilities that we can do. And if we put a crosswalk down, I think we're giving pedestrians a defined location where to cross. I, however, don't know that they're going to utilize that because they're going to park, closer down to Belmont. And we're going to have this up at Trent, and they're not going to walk up the street. So
I think it's gonna be a full sense of security.
I don't know. We'll put it in place. I don't know if they're going to use it or not. It's the same as what we did that at Hill in the middle of the block. I said at the time that we put it there for them, but I don't know how much they're going to use it. And I see when I go through there myself, I see some people utilizing it, and I see others that aren't. So,
It would seem to be problematic if you put a crosswalk in going westbound, maybe it makes a little bit of sense. But if you put that crosswalk extends eastbound, then you're asking for disaster because somebody's coming over the hill and
Across the
now
street,
there's
somebody
somebody.
half across.
yeah, I'm not sure.
My whole point is you can't do a crosswalk.
Yeah, the whole thing is a false sense of security.
Yeah, well, that was my
Yeah.
point. Talking about a crosswalk makes no sense when you're coming over a hill. Somebody's gonna get whacked. So what's the point? of
Isn't
talking
there a
about
warning
crosswalk?
sign that wouldn't be blinking or anything, but there'd be a sign that could be posted, there's a crosswalk ahead?
We could do something like that, yes. If we do one that's blinking, then I believe that we're gonna need the permitting from PennDOT to do that type of thing. But
To go through all that.
if we did it like we did on Hill, we just put signs,
Like, this is.
we could do something like that.
I think even if we put it, no parking signs, I'm just dropping a letter off in the
100%.
box, or I just run it in for stamps, I'll only be 5 minutes.
So-
Standing, not
Yeah,
parking.
Yeah.
If you all remember, I spoke about it last time, we've had 2 fatalities in the 25 years. We had another 5 pedestrians hit, 1 walked here to tell us that they were hit. The other, we got on location, there was nobody there. So there was really 3 where people were hurt, and had to be taken by ambulance. So really there's 5 total And we had 2 fatalities and then the 3 that were hurt in 25 years. That doesn't fall under the definition of us having a real issue here with this happening. So I think if we do the crosswalks, then, like I said, I don't know how often people are gonna use it, if it gives them a sense of security, and it's really not, but
Or would it be across it from Trent at the corner, or would it be in the middle of the street?
no, I believe this would be at Trent. That's how I picture it being. I don't know, because of the sight distance and everything, putting that in the, with cars coming over the hill, coming eastbound, and then we have the bend there, right here at Fairview, coming westbound, I don't know that we would wanna put that in the middle of the block there.
So PennDOT's gonna dictate to me, based off this letter, they're gonna dictate where everything goes. Some of us were here for a meeting with Senator Schwenk on Friday, and she actually asked, has PennDOT reached out to you yet? And I indicated no. So, one of her aides was gonna reach out to Chris Cafro, who wrote this letter from PennDOT, and ask him to reach out as soon as possible.
But so much
Before
of
we
it is,
do anything, I'd like
Right.
PennDOT to put in writing what their recommendation is.
Yeah, because if PennDOT's telling us, if we crosswalk it, all of a sudden, 50 engineers show up telling us where it has to be and how it has to be. Tell them to come in here and tell us what they think we can do, and then we can think about it, because who the hell knows what they're gonna suggest after the.
I'd like to see
This letter says that, the paying crosswalks pedestrians are the responsibility of the borough to purchase,
Says are
erect,
recommended.
and maintain.
Yeah.
yeah.
But the last sentence, we will coordinate with the borough and offer the suggested signing and marking
That
enhancements.
just means the expenses, that doesn't mean the authorization.
Yeah.
All right.
So I asked the other day when she was here, I said, I don't think it's, I get it, I would love safety, but I don't think anyone's ever gonna use it. So, my question was, if you put and I know this is gonna piss the road crew off, but if you put a bump out, and I'm not talking about at any intersection, I'm talking about right at the front door, and then the walkway's a little shorter, and you're not jumping out between cars, it's the only way I think it could work, but I don't even know if that makes sense.
So much depends on the pedestrian being patient, and waiting for braking traffic.
Or able.
Right, but usually it's, you have to, sometimes you have to wait a couple minutes, and you can't, I mean, you force it and you get hit.
Listen, you can't control
No.
people's actions, I understand.
We're never gonna be able to eliminate 100% of risk in anything that we do anywhere. I mean, we just can't. The thing to remember with, when we're crossing the street, in the vehicle code, vehicles are meant to be in the street. Pedestrians are supposed to be on sidewalks or off to the side, or crossing at the corners or crosswalks. So if somebody is crossing in the middle of the road and they get hit, there's liability in there. When the accident reports are written, they're shown to have liability, because they're in a place that they're not supposed to be. Okay? And that's something, I mean, we'd all be lying if we said we never did the same thing, right? We all do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking on that risk, at being a part of getting hit and it being our fault, because we're in a place we're not supposed to be. So, I mean, if we put the crosswalks there, then we're providing them a location where they should be going. I just don't know, people are gonna just, out of human nature and habit, that they're gonna use it.
Unfortunately, flashing signs are not legal, but I think that would be the only way that having a sign saying crosswalk ahead would ever become remotely effective. So I think right now we just gotta wait and see what PennDOT comes back, and so we'll table it till next month again.
Well, we need some kind of approval to go back, or?
We're waiting to hear from PennDOT.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
So we're waiting to hear from Penn, I thought they just.
Well, the
told us.
PennDOT says that coordinated office suggested signing and marking enhancements.
So we're supposed to do
I
that?
have no idea what
we have to
It's
pay
so
for it,
vague
they'll
that
tell us
you
where to
can't-
put it.
No, I understand, but if we have to pay for it and they'll tell us where to do it, then we'll tell
It's the way-
PennDOT to tell us what to
It's the way it
do.
always is with PennDOT.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they haven't told us what to do yet.
No, we asked for their input. We're waiting for it.
Did we pay for those emergency lights ahead for up the station when we said cars, you know, that are stopped here?
That was before my time, I have no idea. Probably, would be my guess.
No, these are the new ones they just put up last year.
Oh, yeah.
So we paid for those.
Yes.
Okay. If all in agreement, we'll just wait and see what PennDOT has in their illustrious book of knowledge for us.
Next, I'm asking for a motion to table, approve, or deny a request for a handicap parking space at 1273 Penn Avenue. With this, it should be understood that at 1277, we already have a parking space of 2 houses away. So it's been our policy that we do 1 per block. And so it would be my recommendation that based on our past practices that this be denied. The person that lives at 1277 who originally requested that is still there, but the person that is making this request has the right to park there. They can't stop that. It's always everybody's told when they get these that anybody who has a handicap placard or registration can park in these spaces. It's not specifically for them. Anybody can use it that has the proper signage for registration.
I also recall that a few years ago, Schaefer's at 1283 requested it and were denied because of that. And if anybody gets one, another one, Schaefer's ought to get it because they've lived there forever. And if anybody should get one, they should.
Okay, we'll have a motion to table, approve, or deny the handicap parking request for 1273 Penn Avenue. Someone wish to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny the request. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No oppositions. The request is denied. You'll notify them and tell them.
I'll
why.
leave that at the council, but yes.
Okay.
And lastly, I have on here a discussion regarding the tractor trailer parking on Van Reed at Douglas. Some updated information, the truck and tractor trailer itself have been inspected, so it is in compliance now with regulations for the state to be on the street legally. I've spoken with the owner of the truck. He told me that I discussed a few things with him. I told him about the concerns. He has said that he has spoken with his neighbor that lives along Van Reed, and they're okay with them parking as close to their driveway as possible, and he's parking it back further. Now I've gone up and I haven't seen the truck. The truck's not there as of today, so I'm not sure how far back he's getting. But you know, as it is now, with how that area is zoned, the truck is parked legally when it's there. It's in compliance now with the inspections. So as far as the law goes, there's nothing we can do about it being there.
Including that extension cord?
Well,
Correct.
that's different. I talked to him about that, and I told him that as well.
Perhaps send an enforcement notice for that.
But that's been passed on the codes. He asked me if he could dig a channel under the sidewalk. I told him that would probably not be allowed, but he should talk to codes about that.
How is the extension cord different than the people who are charging the electric vehicles with something in the house going across the sidewalk?
It's
to their
not,
car?
which is why an enforcement notice was sent.
But I used to see that all the time with Tim Ring. Used to have that all the time.
And what does he be then?
Property. I mean, if it's still going on.
Probably
like-
1600 Cleveland. I haven't seen it for a while. But yeah, people's not allowed to drive.
If we know about it, we can issue an enforcement notice.
So the options are, I mean, as I see it, if you want to limit parking of that truck there, then we're gonna have to change how that street is zoned, you know, because as it is, I don't, like I said, I don't have a issue with crashes caused of it, so I can't show that. It's in a spot where the borough says it's allowed to be, and it's now within all regulations. So my hands are tied as far as what we can do.
If we were to issue no parking signs 15 feet from the corner, that would be blocking that resident's driveway.
But now you're just gonna
He
encourage them to
can-
go
he
park
can
in the 800 or the 900 block.
You can do the same thing in that, but there's 2 blocks. We do it in both blocks.
Chris, we had talked about, I don't remember which chapter of the borough code it was, but potentially changing the language so that no tractor trailer parking was permitted on Van Reed. To me, that would be the most effective solution if the committee's in favor of limiting tractor trailer parking on that street, for the simple fact of, if you put the no parking 15 feet to corner, that, my point is that truck could go a block down and park in front of 3 other people's houses.
I have a client which has prohibited this kind of parking on any public street in the municipality. Hypothetically, you could go that far. I don't know if it's, how many vehicles are there like this? Is this the only one in the world that parks on a public street?
I don't.
Well, the only other fortunate one that I complain about a lot is the economy roofing truck at Forest and Reading. That is, but that's under the GVW.
Yeah, that's not a commercial vehicle, it's Class C licensed vehicle.
It's a pickup, it's a giant pickup. Dump truck, yeah, I mean, that's, I'd look at that every day.
I think you could do a traffic regulation. It's not a zoning issue. The zoning does not apply to the street. Zoning's only on the property. But you could do it through traffic regulation.
So, I mean, the large vehicle parking ordinance, it talks about recreational vehicles. That's why this vehicle does not apply. This large vehicle parking allows for 48 hours for loading, unloading, that type of thing. I mean, I think it might be as easy, looking for you for your, what your opinion is, that definition be updated, or we add one that for these commercial mode vehicles, because in that case, it can only be there for 48 hours, and it's for loading and unloading the thing. That would allow, if people come in or move into the borough or moving out, they have a truck parked there to do that. You know, we would be allowing for that type of thing to occur. But like I said, as it stands now, it just covers recreational vehicles, which this does not fit the definition.
Chief, did you ever have a chance to talk with the
Yes.
Is he defiant or what?
Well, he's been parking there for years, he said. He says he runs his business out of there and he pays the EIT through there, and I passed that on. I don't know what the status of all that is, and the legalities of his business, his residence, but it seems like he's just been doing it for a long time. He says he gets along with all his neighbors. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm looking at you,
I mean, I've had a number of other neighbor complaints. I've had at least 2 other individuals reach out for me on this topic of just the hazard that it possesses at that intersection. Just about the traffic reporting in general, I mean, I go back to the daily log the day after I had my accident at that intersection. Called 911. My accident never made it onto the blotter. I see lots of calls all the time with 911 hangups, all these sorts of things, and here I am actually talking to somebody, convening back to one of the officers, and they go and they cancel the call. So that doesn't hit anything then?
Well, we don't
at all.
I don't. Berks Radio is their own entity. They do not. We don't have our own dispatch center anymore, so I can't speak to what they do.
So I call 911 and I hang up. I see stuff in the blotter all the time. You go out and you check. Hang up calls, right? So I call 911. I actually talked to somebody. They're telling me they connected back to you guys as the police department and said, hey, we're all stuck downtown. It was a day we had an event downtown with a candidate. And then they said, is there anybody injured? I said, no, nobody's injured. Can you exchange information? Yes, I can exchange information. That's where it stopped. So
They did that on their own because they knew everybody was busy. They didn't dispatch us.
So they never even bothered call. So they hang up. They said, I'm going to check locally. They never called you guys.
That's correct.
Oh, well.
So there's no record of it on my end. So, yes, we could go into the system and see the calls, but there's no call.
So we have no way of knowing that. If that happens and there's no injuries and dispatch decides not to call you guys, we're going to have no idea that there was a non-injury accident if they
If they don't dispatch us, we're not going to know about it. Now that, I would say, is not something that's very common. That must have been one of the political events where somebody was driving through and we had the highways shut down and everybody was busy. So I believe that Berks took it upon themselves. They knew everybody was busy and they're telling you, is there any injuries, exchange information. They're doing that because they know nobody's going to be able to come. Now that's not something they normally do because we're very rarely tied up like that no one's available. Or then the other thing with that, it wasn't just us tied up. All the municipalities around us were tied up to be able to get somebody to handle it for us.
Yeah, but so I have at least at the moment 2 other folks who live on the street who have expressed similar complaints, similar safety concerns. Again, just generally being far more difficult of an intersection than it needs to be for.
I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying is, as everything is now, there's nothing legally I can do. So there would have to be a change in something with the ordinance.
Yeah, Chief, the regulation that I had, another municipality prohibited parking on public streets of something defined as a motor carrier vehicle. And that term means either of the 2 following things. The first example is a truck, tractor, or combination having gross vehicle weight rating, gross combination weight rating, registered gross weight, registered combination weight, or actual gross weight of 17,001 pounds or more. And the second example is a truck, tractor, or combination engaged in interstate commerce and having a gross vehicle weight rating, gross combination weight rating, registered gross weight, registered combination weight, or actual gross weight of 10,001 pounds or more. So I don't know if that clicks with any, vehicle code classification standards, but that's what was done in this other municipality.
But do we really need the death penalty? Isn't there some place that guy could park without obstructing traffic and still be able to conduct his business, which he's had apparently for a very long time?
You could ask Georgie though if he can use some parking.
He used to park there, and then he was told he couldn't park there anymore, that they needed the whole,
Well, the only
the whole
place to
parking
park
lot.
the tractor trailer.
But
is
Michelle
park
had
the tractor trailer.
Michelle had a different solution to the problem, which seemed to address the neighborhood's concerns, but which would allow him to conduct his business fairly close to his home.
People don't like tractor trailers in
I
residential
understand
neighborhoods.
that. I don't like RVs, I don't like a lot of things. I have, we all have to suck up. to
Well,
something don't
we
like.
can let RVs be there, we just don't want tractor trailers, which is what Chris just
Well,
outlined.
Well, my concern is that if it's based on a street, that you're just likely to shift the issue to another neighborhood.
Right. That's why I should be for a while.
exactly, I agree.
So there's no place in the borough you think that would be okay?
On the street?
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, the only reason it's allowed to park there now is because that is a unique situation where there's an industrial zoning district that goes up to those property lines. I'd have to look at the zoning map, but I'm not actually aware that condition exists anywhere else in the borough.
Well, there's nobody parking in any of those locations now, unless you find a place and say, hey buddy, go park over there.
Well, again, we already restrict it in all those other places.
Zoning doesn't control off-street parking.
Actually, in this, Only because of, in this case, it's an industrial zoning district. John, sorry, Chief, refresh my memory.
I prefer that.
There is a regulation, and it's not in the zoning ordinance, but it calls out the zoning district where tractor trailers are
Right,
permitted.
that's in the large scale
Yes.
parking.
So I understand what you're saying, Fred, that in general, yes, the zoning only regulates off-street parking, but the zoning district in this case,
So he couldn't park across the street in the opposite direction?
he couldn't park on
No
Douglas,
parking.
he could park on Van Reed, because on, well, yeah, I mean,
He could park anywhere down the other side of Van Reed in front of the rest of the residentials.
yes, but,
Well, that's not
Park
allowed.
Avenue.
Potentially, he could park in those other places, which would be the point of not putting just no parking here at the corner, because then he could just move his truck. And then there's very few
The 800
drivers
block
on the
of
street.
Van Reed is, I would call, long, so it's between Douglas and Spring Street. So if you put 15 feet at both ends there, there's a lot of space for him to pull up. He's gonna be pulling up in front of somebody's home. I'm sure we'll hear that.
Okay, so we're not, it's
So
not
what
one of
happens
those
when
blocks
there's
of our
1,000
vacant
apartments?
lots or?
I don't understand your question.
In that neighborhood.
What about it? We've already had
Move
fights
tractor
about
trailers
it.
around the corner, they're gonna be there when these people move into the apartment.
Well, they haven't
Well, they
even
can't-
broken
there's
ground
no
on that.
parking.
No, I
You know?
understand, but if-
There's no parking down the other side of Van Reed, on both sides of the street, so he can't park in front of the apartment complex with his truck if it goes in. And he can't park on either side of it because the other side is then the residential overall. And that was one of the concerns we initially addressed with the variance when we allowed that building even to start going in there, is they had to control parking and do the best of their ability to make sure there was no street parking.
So there was
So what's everyone's thought on, we got Chris to draft something, work with the chief and with Michelle, and, you know, bring it back to us next month and let's see where we stand.
I agree. Worldwide prohibition on street parking.
Are you okay if it says something to allow loading, unloading, that type of thing?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, because you got
But I'm
moving
just-
trucks and that.
Right, I'm just saying, I think we need to make sure that that's written.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
but I
a
think-
48-hour thing that's in a.
I mean, this tractor trailer is one thing. The other day I noticed the roofing truck was filled with trash and stuff, you know, with no cover on it. Now that I see that there's a cover on it now. But, I mean, that's just parked on a residential street, it's not appropriate.
We don't have an ordinance against bad neighbors.
You know, so, why don't, yeah, okay. Someone wish to make that motion?
it's not,
Oh, you
you
don't,
don't,
okay, just do it, okay, great. We'll visit this again next month. We'll see where we go. Do we have anything,
That's everything. Any other questions for me?
any other questions for the police chief? Thank you, John.
That's what.
me too.
Do we have anything for executive session? No?
Am I watched?
If not, we are adjourned.
My
Thank
body
you,
almost
Ron.
at 16.
There's lots of other things that I can appreciate.